All right. So the world that we all live in spins on its axis. Do you know how fast it spins? Take a guess.
I don't even want to talk about
All right, somebody. You take a guess, you get one of these very valuable but not exchangeable for real currency beaver bucks. Come on, a guess. Somebody. Yeah.
Like 100,000 meters per second?
100,000 meters per second. What's that in kilometers? All right.
10,000?
No, it's not 10,000 kilometers. Another guess. Come on, somebody. Come on, yeah. 107,000. No. But I love the effort, thank you. Would you pass this down to him? Who else? Come on, you got something. Hit me with something. Yeah, what you got?
20,000 miles an hour.
20,000 miles an hour, not quite. So thank you. 1,000 miles per hour, right? 1,600 kilometers per hour. That's about how fast it moves. But the reality is, while that remains constant, right? Like that's not changing on a daily basis. That doesn't change at all. The reality is the world that we live in is only getting faster. The world we live in is only getting faster. We as a society are creating more problems every day than we are solutions to those problems. And entrepreneurs are the people who are best positioned to go and to address those fundamental challenges that we as a society create and face. And that's why I absolutely love entrepreneurship. But I also believe that we need more entrepreneurs in this world to address these challenges. So me, I'm a software engineer by training. I studied CIS at Bentley and marketing. I started building products, but what I realized was that in that pursuit, I wound up building products, not necessarily businesses. And so my approach to that process changed over the course of my time at Bentley. Since Bentley, since 2014, I've gone and started a number of businesses with an overarching goal of impact. Entrepreneurs, you go start a business, there's highs, there's lows, it's a total roller coaster. Any job you have is gonna be a roller coaster, but the life of an entrepreneur has greater extremes, right? The highs are really high and the lows are really, really low. So the businesses that I've built, it all starts from Bentley. I started my first company while I was here. We went and we showcased this in Cambridge, and I kind of started to learn this process by doing. The company that I started out in California helps day laborers every single morning connect with jobs that they need. Jobs, think of it as painting or construction or demolition or picking and packing in warehouses. And they earn money at the end of the day. That company was called Work Today. I then co-founded a company called Oceanworks, selling recycled ocean plastic to brands that want to make more sustainable products for consumers like us. For example, we'd take fishing nets out of the ocean, work with our partners to collect those, to turn those into recycled plastic that brands could then use, into pellets, which are the raw materials for a manufacturing process. We'd work with those companies to acquire that online. They'd come and they'd purchase it from our platform, sourced from all over the world. And then they'd have it shipped to their factory, prepared for them, clearing customs, all of that around the world, so that they could turn it into all sorts of different types of consumer products. One example that I would share with you all would be the plastic coming out of places like Haiti and Indonesia. We were able to help to take this plastic and to repurpose it into consumer products, one of which many folks will be familiar with Stanley water bottles, Stanley tumblers, into the caps for some of the Stanley bottles. So just to give you one really concrete example, but my dogs have ocean plastic dog bones. It's really anything that you see around you made of plastic. And so this is the journey that we came through. The company that I co-founded most recently is called Willow, helping people who, you've got monthly bills, but you get paid every single week. Sometimes those monthly bills are too much for the weekly paychecks to be able to cover if you don't have really strong budgeting skills. So we looked at ways to take monthly household bills for things like the water bill, things like the utility bills, the internet bills, the mobile phone bills, and split those up to be weekly bills instead of monthly bills to better align with when people were getting paid, to make sure that the water never gets shut off before you've got to leave the house in the morning. So these are a few of the businesses that I've worked on, that I've started, but I've also had the opportunity to work with entrepreneurs all over. My role in these companies has always been tech-based. I've been the engineer building the products. But I've made a point of always engaging in every single element of the business fundamentals as well. So that's kind of what my education at Bentley prepared me for. And when I think about the thing that I benefited from most, it was kind of that general business background. I'll tell you, I was not very good at accounting. I was not very good at finance, but I got those like core fundamentals that I needed as the engineer on the team, as the technical co-founder, so that every single conversation around the business fundamentals I was well prepared for. And so one of the biggest takeaways I have from my learnings comes back to the spring of 1989. Does anybody know what movie came out in the spring of 1989? I see a smile in the back, but I haven't heard an answer yet. It was a baseball movie. We got any baseball players in here? What movie? Spring of 1989. Yes! Thank you. Yes, Field of Dreams. What's the number one thing you remember from Field of Dreams? There's one saying. If you build it, they will come, right? If you build it, they will come. Surely many of you have heard this message before. And in the world of technology and entrepreneurship, I can tell you, it is definitely not true. I had come at this mindset of, hey, if I build this product or if I build this technology, people will want it, they'll need it, right? Because it solves a problem. But the reality that I found was that, unless you have all of the business fundamentals coming together, you're going to build something that nobody winds up using. And that doesn't seem like a very productive use of time. And so that's something that I've explored through the entrepreneurial process. And that's why I work at the Trust Center. The Trust Center is MIT's Entrepreneurship Center. We teach entrepreneurship, both at MIT and around the world. We teach entrepreneurship to engineers. We teach entrepreneurship to business people. We teach entrepreneurship to anybody who wants to go and have an impact in the world around us, knowing that entrepreneurship is one of the best ways to make that possible. So when we think about entrepreneurship, we think about how do we set up the structure for people to be successful, and it comes through combining academic experience with real-world application of what they've learned. And that's one of the things that I believe to be really important for people who are studying technology in any form, because if we can combine that with what real people want, we can be successful. I came to MIT initially to build the software that would connect entrepreneurs across MIT and around the world together to be able to go and create those businesses. And that was a product called Orbit, which I'll show you more of in just a moment. For me, this was a really important project. And it also integrates with a lot of the content and curriculum that we've developed and that we teach around the world. This is the content that's helped people build businesses with extremely high rates of success. People like Sam, who you see here, who went on to become an investor, actually. People like Vinny, who's going and she's trying to commercialize brain control interfaces for prosthetics. People like Bernardo, who's developing, he came in and he said, I'm going to build technology. He's a PhD in engineering. He said, I want to build robotic warehouses. Think about that, massive vending machines for warehouses. But today, Bernardo, through the course of that business, thank gosh they didn't build the vending machines for warehouses, because if they had, they wouldn't have had anybody buying them. They would have had a business that didn't actually make it. They pivoted based on the customer feedback, and today they're actually building the future platform for large language models, one that I use extensively and that I'd encourage you all to check out as well. It's Stack AI. This is a really interesting product that they've developed out west that they brought through our accelerator program at MIT. It's thinking about not just what do we build, but why are we building it that way? Who are we building it for? To make sure that we wind up building the right products. Now, I've talked about entrepreneurship, and one of the things that I would share with you all is that it is changing, and it is changing very, very quickly. We are seeing more interest amongst people in becoming entrepreneurs. What is an entrepreneur? What do you think of as an entrepreneur? What's an entrepreneur to you? Yeah, look at you. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, basically a leader that has an idea and
Okay.
makes profit and changes the world with their idea.
A leader who has an idea, makes a profit, and changes the world. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. A profit in beaver bucks. Yeah. What else? What else do you think of as an entrepreneur? How would you define that? How would you define it?
Someone that's just their own boss.
Someone who's their own boss. Yeah, I think that's oftentimes the case, but not necessarily always. Yeah.
Someone who solves a problem.
Someone who solves a problem. Okay, I like that.
A business creator.
A business creator. Okay. So the interesting thing is that I would just encourage you to think about this as more than just creating a business, about more than just necessarily having an idea, about more than necessarily just being our own bosses, right? When we think about it, it's this idea of doing more than is reasonable with the resources that you have control of. So when I think about the roles that I've had, yeah, some of it's been starting businesses from scratch, but I've also worked in larger companies. And the question is how does an entrepreneur be in the technology department of a larger organization? How does an entrepreneur be a marketer at a larger organization? Well, it's having this mindset and this skill set to be able to be highly effective, highly efficient, to get things done and to solve people's problems, which is a common theme amongst what we heard from folks. That might be starting a business from the ground up. It also might be starting a new venture, a new product line within a larger existing business, right? And so these are the things that I would encourage you to think about is how entrepreneurial are you, right? You say be your own boss, but a lot of entrepreneurs work for people. I would say that I'm an entrepreneur within MIT. I do have a boss now, right? And I'd say that's actually a good thing, right? But how do we have more impact than is reasonable? There's more people who want to become entrepreneurs. I also think that we are going to see more and more individuals who are stronger entrepreneurs. While we're seeing more entrepreneurs, we're also seeing stronger entrepreneurs. What does that mean? What does that look like? Entrepreneurs are going to be better prepared for what's to come, for addressing these large challenges that we face as a society, because you think about building a business or creating a new product within a company, the business plan is generally where you start. But high quality, comprehensive, rigorous business plans are becoming universally accessible with the internet. How do we go and how do we create a new market? We can leverage technology now to do that much more quickly. And I wanted to share with you all an example of exactly what that looks like. This is a product that I've been developing with our team. We have a technology team at the Trust Center. What this does is it creates a business plan for a new venture that anybody here could go start in a matter of minutes. And so I wanted to share that with you. It leverages generative AI. It takes your idea and it spits out the first draft of a business plan really, really quickly. So let's take a look at exactly how that manifests. Here you're going to see our platform. I type in, I want to create software to help doctors be more efficient. And there's an entrepreneurial process we use. It starts with market segmentation, segmenting the market. We built this tool to look at these different market segments like serving primary care physicians or hospital networks or specialty care clinics. And it gives you all the information that you would need in just a matter of seconds to be able to decide which market segment does it make the most sense to start with first. We had to make a decision as to what to include here. And it's all based in our framework that we use at MIT to teach entrepreneurship, to teach the entrepreneurial process to increase the odds of success. So we decided to build this into our Orbit software platform. And this was a decision that we had to make because giving this to the students in my class, it basically gave them the answers to all the homework assignments. They were very happy to hear that. We had to figure out how are we going to change that course. But the introduction of this technology to entrepreneurs, my students, to entrepreneurs around the world, is giving them more information to go off of, because what you see here generated in an instant used to take entrepreneurs, and my students included, weeks, oftentimes even months to get this level of information, this level of data. So the question is, how do we take all this information that's out there and package it up to help people accelerate that venture creation process? And that's something that we've spent our time looking at in detail. But it's not just about entrepreneurs. This stuff also impacts larger organizations, other businesses. Why? Because we're going to have more people entering the marketplace, more companies entering the marketplace. We're going to have more innovation within the marketplace. There's going to be more people creating new innovations and introducing that to customers. And in those larger organizations, companies you might go work for, there's going to be a stronger need for each of those organizations to move more quickly. Because if they don't, other companies are going to come and steal their market share. So the thing that I want you all to be thinking about is the fact that 52% of the companies in the Fortune 500 from 2003, they don't exist today. Let that sink in for just a second. That's crazy. 52% of the Fortune 500 from 2003 no longer exist. I think that's only going to increase, right? Because as we see more entrepreneurs, better prepared entrepreneurs, we're going to see these things start to change. So I would also ask you, what business could you go create? You have some of the business fundamentals, you have some of the technology skills to be able to go and to get those off the ground, not just building the product, but figuring out whose problem can you solve. How are you going to be able to do that in your career? That might be starting a new business, it might also be in a larger organization that you go work for. So what is innovation, right? Taking new innovations to market. How would you define innovation? What's innovation to you? How would you think about it? Yeah. Changing an existing idea. Okay, that's a good start. Who else? Who else? How would you define innovation? What's innovation to you? Yeah. An idea that changes the mindset? Okay, cool. Change the idea, changes the mindset of people. Yeah, I like that. What else? Yeah.
Coming up with something new, a new method, new idea.
Yeah, coming up with something new, a new idea. Yeah. Has to be widespread. Okay. Yeah, I think that's important in some regard. Yeah. What else? Any other ideas floating around? Yeah.
An idea that is so groundbreaking that it creates new fields.
Okay. A groundbreaking idea that creates new fields. Yeah, okay. I like it because a lot of you are infusing the entrepreneurial elements right into these answers. That's good. It means you've been somewhat listening. I like that. Thank you. So what is innovation? What I've heard from a lot of people is it's like new ideas, new things, new inventions. But the thing I would encourage you to think about is, look, we could sit here and come up with a bunch of new inventions. We could invent some stuff. Absolutely, no question about it. But innovation has an impact in the world around us. Invention alone doesn't really go anywhere necessarily. People spend thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars getting patents for new inventions, but oftentimes the return on investment of those is zero. It's nothing. You see no return. And so what we think about is how do we take those inventions and push them out to the world to have an impact? And that's the commercialization element of it. And this is the combination, right? As a technologist myself, I'm thinking about what's new that I can create, but also how do I get it out to the world? Because if I just create a bunch of stuff, it's not going to create value. And we talk about this invention times commercialization because it's the feedback loop. How quickly can we develop something? How quickly can we get it in front of a customer, get that feedback from them, and then incorporate it? The faster we can run that iterative cycle, the better prepared we are to get those products out to market. And so we use a process called disciplined entrepreneurship to take those ideas, those technologies, these new ideas that we develop, and to push them out to the market, to push them out to customers. And that helps people get from a technology or an idea to a business plan. But the question that I often have is how do we turn that business plan into a business? This disciplined entrepreneurship process has worked phenomenally well. We've seen 69% of the companies that have been developed through our program, they're still active or have been acquired. If you think about that, if you think about startups and new companies, what do you think the success rate generally is? What do you think that success rate looks like? If you had to take a guess, just across the board, all the new companies that are created. Yeah. 1%. It's a great guess. What else? What percent of the companies do you think actually succeed? What percent of businesses do you think they succeed?
Like
7. What do you think?
Well, like 5%.
5%? Everybody's so pessimistic here. 1, 5, 7. I'd say it's like maybe not even 1%. Of all the businesses that are started, such a small number of them are successful. So we take this customer-driven, customer-first approach to building new businesses, and the results are very strong. So then the question becomes, it's like, all right, well, how do we go from business plan to a business? How do we actually go and create a business leveraging some technology or some innovation, some new invention that we've created? How do we do that? How do we make it happen? This is the process that I believe has been, under-taught, underexplored. And that's where Startup Tactics, which is the framework that I've developed, comes into play. So Startup Tactics, what does that mean? What is a tactic? How would you define tactic? How would you define tactic? I taught a whole class on this, and at the end of the semester, the TA came up and said, Paul, this is great, but what the heck is a tactic? What do you think?
The steps that you're going to take to solve a problem.
Okay, steps you're going to take to solve a problem. Yeah? Yeah. Oh, that wasn't a hand up. Yeah. Okay, a strategy for a way to do something. Interesting. Okay, what else? What else? What do you think? You're taking notes or you're doing some other homework. Yeah, what do you think? A plan? Okay, a plan. So a lot of people have the plan. A lot of people have the strategy. The question is do they know what actions to take? A tactic is an action carefully planned to achieve a specific end. Do entrepreneurs know what actions to take that product, that idea, that business plan, and put it out into the world? And so that's what we look at. Why? Because there's two extremely precious resources that entrepreneurs have, going and starting new businesses. Those are, what are these two most precious resources that entrepreneurs have? We've got to be really careful about how we use them. What do you think? The brain. Very precious, very important. Not the most precious. Not the most precious. There's two of these. What do you think? Yeah. Unlimited information online. No, very valuable, but everybody has that. Yeah. Their drive. Super important, super important. But hopefully we don't deplete that resource. There's two others that we have very limited of. Yeah. Drive. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. With the fun hat. What is that hat, by the way?
From Naruto.
From what?
Naruto.
Oh, I don't know what that is, but I like it.
I was going to say like time or money.
Time or money? Did you get these in advance? Time and money. Time and money are the two most precious resources that we have as entrepreneurs, right? And honestly, as like individuals on planet Earth, right? We've got super limited time. We don't have unlimited time to go and to build a new business. And money, it's like we're starting from ground zero. We've got like no money to go start this business. Where do we get more of it? How do we make sure that we're using it as efficiently as possible so that we can realize that end impact that we set out to create? So this tactics framework looks at how do we make the most progress possible with the fewest resources, with the least amount of time and money. And this is something that I've spent a lot of my career exploring. How do we become super efficient but also super effective as entrepreneurs? And I think we have to go back 2,500 years to figure out like why this is, right? You mentioned strategy. How do we think about that? We had our Field of Dreams reference. You got that one. What happened 2,500 years ago? There was a book that was written. Does anybody know what book was written 2,500 years ago? Yeah. It was not the Bible. No. It's a good guess. Yeah. The Odyssey. No, wow, that's a throwback. The Odyssey, wow. No, what else? It was written by a Chinese military strategist. Yeah. The Art of War. Yes, yes. Thank you. The Art of War is written by Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu, the Chinese military strategist who wrote, strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory, and tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. This idea of like understanding the strategy of where we're going, why we're going in that direction, but also the tactics of how do we get there. If we don't have both, if we don't have that combination, we won't ultimately realize that full potential. We'll leave missed opportunity. We'll leave that on the table. And so this is why these tactics are so important, and this is how we pull it together. So yeah, this is kind of the framework that I've put out in my new book based on my experience as an entrepreneur, but also looping in a lot of the learnings I've had from my students, from other entrepreneurs. I've tried to tie all of this together into 15 simple tactics or actions that you can take to take this new idea you have for a business and turn it into an actual business. It starts with foundation, setting goals, going and setting goals to make sure that the things we're doing on a daily basis contribute to our next milestones, to our ultimate vision. It looks at market testing. Those are things like doing primary market research, right? If we're going to go and build a new product, going and figuring out who are we building it for, what do they care about, what are their motivators, what are their fears, what are the biggest problems they have, what's the top priority in their life. Everything from what they have for breakfast in the morning to what's the biggest challenge they have that their boss gives them. So that we make sure that we're building products that actually serve their biggest needs. Because if we can't do that, they're not going to change their behavior to use our new product. We look at things like building visual assets, doing some marketing and doing some sales. And my guess is many of you are in marketing classes here, maybe some sales classes as well. Going and doing marketing and sales at a large organization, if you go work at TJX, doing marketing and sales there versus doing marketing and sales in a day zero company that you are creating is very different. There's a lot of different elements to that process that you have to understand because the budgets are not the same. We're working with like $40 here to get these early marketing campaigns out there. We need to learn really quickly. That's what this looks at. And it looks at the earliest stage of sales. How do we go build a lead list? How do we reach out to customers? How do we see, do they really want what we think they do? This market testing stage looks at how do we get a line of customers waiting down the street for our product before we've ever even built it? Can we do that? If we can do that, we've got a lot of confidence, a lot of conviction that we are extremely well positioned to go and to build that product knowing that people will actually use it once we've done so. Comes back to the Field of Dreams reference, right? If you build it, they will come. That's not true. But if you figure out who's ready and who's waiting for this product and then you build it, you will have those users, those customers that you need. Once we've got that line of customers, that's when we actually get into the product development, which is, that's my background, right? Going and building the products, the thing that I absolutely love, that I care about most. And that's product development, building a product roadmap, doing some early product design, and that might be as simple as putting pen to paper and going and handing it to somebody and saying, hey, what do you think? Do you like this? Do you not like this? Excuse me, what should we change? Before we actually go and do the engineering of it, before we sit down and start to build the system. If I draw you a sketch of the product that I believe you want, and then I show it to you, and you say, oh, I actually really don't like that. I don't understand what you're doing here. And then I take it back and I erase part of it and redraw it. If I do that versus saying, here's a full-blown product that I've engineered, you don't like that part, let me go change it. The time it takes me to erase something is far less than it would take me to completely rebuild it, to completely re-engineer the system. And when our two most precious resources are time and money, we don't have the time to waste to go build the whole thing up front. We've got to start with the simplest possible product design and then iterate from there. And then once we've got a line of customers and we have product built to serve them, that's when we look at resource acquisition. How do we get more of these two most precious resources that we have? How do we get the company incorporated? How do we build the financial model, which all of you, being from Bentley, are going to be very, very good at? How do we go build a pitch deck to communicate that story? And I'm not talking about just like a slide deck. I'm talking about what's the story that's going to get people to lean in. And then how do we take that story, that pitch deck, how do we go and do the last two tactics, 14 and 15? How do we fundraise? How do we go get more money? How do we actually reach out to investors? What do we write to them? How do we get the introductions? What do we say to them? And then once we have that money, how do we put it to good use? How do we get more time? How do we go hire people? Not how do we go to the HR department and get them to write a job post and push it out, but how do we figure out who we need on our team to achieve the goals we set out to hit in our first tactic? How do we go and actually publicize that online? How do we go interview candidates? How do we figure out what do we pay them? All these things that in an early stage company, you don't have departments to go to that will help you with those things. And so that's the ideas behind the book. That's how this all comes together with one element of entrepreneurial math. There's 3 parts to entrepreneurial math. The first one, 1 + 1 = 3. Not true in math, but in entrepreneurial math, it says, if let's say you and I go start a company together and we've got a meeting and The whole company falls apart in that meeting. We walk away, because we're energy amplifiers with each other, even more excited to go tackle the next part of the challenge, because this is a business whose interests we really align with, right? Energy amplifiers. We're both amplifying each other's energy so that when things don't go right, we're still moving. The second part of entrepreneurial math, 100% of 50% is greater than 50% of 100%. Follow? Yeah. 100% of 50%. A fully committed team that is smaller, fully committed 100% of a smaller team, 50% of a team, is better than 50%, like half commitment, of a larger team of 100%, right? We need people who are fully invested and fully committed. And I've learned this one the hard way over the years. You've got to have a really fully invested, fully committed team, even with tons of ambiguity. And then the last part of entrepreneurial math is PEMDAS. You know what PEMDAS is? Yeah? What is it? I had to relearn it recently.
What was in math, like telling you what order to take all of the equation?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, thank you, right? It's the order of operations, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, and so on. It's what order do we do these in? And there's an order of operations here that's really important, and it comes back to the field of dreams. We start with the foundations, we go to market testing, we go to product development, we go to resource acquisition, and this is really important. If we're not following the order of operations, we're going to go build a product before we know we have people to use it. So this is the third element of entrepreneurial math that I believe to be just so important. Because if we're not following that, we wind up wasting our most precious resources. I know that entrepreneurs need to be able to wear a variety of hats. None of them quite as cool as yours, but you will one day, or 1 hour I should say, need to be the marketing person if you're starting a new business. You will, the next hour, need to be the head recruiter, the person going and finding the talent to bring into the team. The next hour you might need to be the product designer. And being able to do all these different roles all almost at the same time is really, really hard, because we need to know just enough about each of these different functional areas to be highly effective, so that we can get the business to the next milestone that will allow us to get more resources so that we can grow and scale the business. And this is the challenge that entrepreneurs face. You don't need to be an expert recruiter. You do need to be able to do just enough recruiting to build a team that's going to get you to that next milestone. So how can you empower yourselves with a variety of skills, knowing that you have one specific expertise, right? You need generalists in an early stage company, but you need people who do have specific expertise. I'm an engineer, right? I think for a lot of people in this room, that's technology. The technology is going to be the place where you have expertise and specialty, but building this wide variety of skill sets helps you to get that business off the ground, that early traction. One of the things that's a misconception of entrepreneurs that I actually learned here at Bentley my sophomore year is that entrepreneurs, they wake up in the morning and they do whatever they want all day long. They get to pick and choose, right? They don't. You made a comment about they're their own boss, right? And that's not necessarily the case, but oftentimes it is. Just because you're your own boss doesn't mean that you get to do whatever you want all day. In my experience, it's actually the opposite. In a big company, you have structure. Structure is provided to you, right? You've got, maybe it's 9 to 5 or whatever your hours are. The company has organization level goals. Your department has goals. You as an individual have the goals that are given to you by your supervisor. But if you're starting your own business, you don't have that quite as much. You don't have that structure given to you. But humans thrive in structure. So we have to figure out, how do we create that structure for ourselves? And that's where this whole process starts. How do we build structure for ourselves so that we achieve what we set out to? That's why we start with goal setting. Is there anybody here who's a scientist? Anybody here who is a scientist, has been a scientist, even enjoys science class? You all must take some science class, right? I see no and maybe a yes, a little bit. Did you have to wear a lab coat? Yeah. Yeah. What class was that for?
Chemistry.
Chemistry, yeah. All right, well, I think you should go grab that lab coat and put it back on. You waltz all over campus wearing a lab coat. Why? Because this process of building new products, of building new businesses, is one where the scientific method, what you leverage when you're wearing a lab coat running an experiment applies just the same, right? The scientific method. We define a hypothesis that we have. In science, it's going to be a little bit different. Here, we're talking about a hypothesis around end users, who's going to use our product, who's going to be a customer of our business. We define some variables that we're going to look at. We run an experiment, and we look at the data that comes back as a result. That data kind of formulates our decisions that we're going to make moving forward. Big company has a ton of historical data, but our ability to say that data exists within a large organization, not something we have access to building a new company. So how do we create our own data set when we don't have decades and decades of company experience? We have to go run these experiments, come back with the data just like a scientist would, so that we can formulate our next set of decisions on the fly in an instant with that data at our disposal. So break out the lab coats. As entrepreneurs, we need them. Sometimes I feel like a scientist, even though chemistry class, every single experiment I ran failed. That was not my strong suit, right? But that's okay. So does this stuff work? I would encourage you to go check out a couple of companies. One is a company started by two of my students, Madeline and Anisha. They started a company without having ever built a product. They set out to help women moving to new cities make friends. They said, we're not going to match people up one-to-one. We're actually going to put them in small groups instead, because their hypothesis was that that would help people make friends more easily. It would yield better results. It would be more successful. They came through. They built a wonderful business plan. The question was, how do you turn that into a business? They did not go and build the product. They didn't start out there. They actually leveraged the scientific method. They leveraged some of these tactics to go and to build a waiting list of over 1,500 women who wanted to use the product. And they did this using a systematic method to test different value propositions with different people, leveraging technology, leveraging different platforms online to reach real people, real women, to say, hey, here's what we think we can do for you. And then they looked at the data to see what came back as a result. This was highly successful, and now they're out there with more of a product built, but still not too much. That product has come in an iterative process, so they continue to advance it without having made an incredibly large investment in the technology behind it. They're continuing to iterate and experiment. But this stuff also works if you wind up going and working for a startup that's a little bit further along. And I'd refer you to my friend Camilo Fosco, who is an engineer. He started an artificial intelligence company called Memorable AI. And in this company, he came in and he said, we're going to use these tactics. And I said, all right, great, where are you at now? And it wasn't an idea. It was a company. They'd raised millions of dollars. They had a team of 25, 30 people. And he said, we're going to leverage these even though we're not a brand new company. These are these entrepreneurial skills or tactics or whatever you want to call them. They're things you can put in your role within a larger organization too. So how do we do that? Well, he said, we're going to leverage them. They increased their conversion rate for new customers through their book a demo process by 123% in 2 weeks. He also brought on 4 new brand name customers, companies that we all know that we've all heard of before, through their sales process. And they also realigned kind of their team, the organization structure, and their talent pipeline to get the best people on the team to have an impact. So all this stuff is available to you today that I shared with you. That comes in a few different forms. One is through the Orbit tool that I showed you that will generate a business plan in minutes, or the draft of. That you can access. The materials from the new book, the workbooks that you can use to help you go and create a new business are all available to you also. You can download those online. All this stuff is available to you to help you in that process of going and creating a new product or a new business or whatever it is that you set out to create. So that's what I wanted to share with you all today. But this all comes back to my journey. A lot of this stuff is deeply rooted in the companies that I've started, what I've learned as an entrepreneur, leveraging the technology skills that I came out of Bentley with, leveraging the marketing skills that I came out of Bentley with to create not just products, but to create businesses and business operations tools and everything that we need to take a business and actually have an impact out in the world with it, starting from just a nascent idea. So that's what I wanted to share with you all. What I really want to do, though, is answer some of your questions. Questions about the entrepreneurial process, questions about building new products, questions about if you've got an idea, what does that look like? I want to answer your questions, and the best question is getting a copy of my book. But I'm open to any and all. So with that, I will pass it to you all. What's the conversation you want to create? Yeah. Wait, first, what's your name? Milani. I like that name. What year are you?
Freshman.
Freshman. Amazing. And what are you going to study?
Management and minor in entrepreneurship.
Really? Yes. I'm so glad to hear that. All right, so hit me. What's your question?
Like what amount of money do you think is like the best to start with, like as your base?
To start a business?
Sort of
Wow, that's a great question.
like a general.
I would say as little as possible, right? And so that might be 0. Can it be done? Yes, it can absolutely be done. I'll tell you, for one of the businesses that I started that I shared with you, we probably started with $100, realistically. One of them, the other one actually, I think we started with $25. It was $25 to Vistaprint for the company matching day laborers with jobs. The team went to Home Depot parking lots early in the morning to talk to people and to learn about what problems could we help to solve for them. And the first money we spent was, I think it was $25 to Vistaprint for these cards. And those cards, that was our first product. It wasn't some full-blown technology system. It was these cards that said, need work, ? Text this phone number. And that was what helped to inform the product we would ultimately build, which was a text messaging-based platform. We handed 100 of those cards out that we spent roughly $25 on, and we waited to see how many people texted that phone number. What was our measure of success, whether or not that worked? It wasn't click-throughs on a website or in an app or anything like that. It was how many texts did we get? We got more than 100 texts. So what that tells us is there was word of mouth created amongst the people that we handed the cards out to. They were talking to others about this. And so that led more people than we had marketed to say, yeah, I need work, I need a job. Let me text in and see how they can help. So I would say as little as possible, but it's not always as straightforward as that, and there's a lot of other context that I would try to incorporate into a proper answer to that question. Milani, that was a great question. I like that one a lot. What's our starting point?
So,
Wait, what's your name?
Christos,
Christos.
Yeah.
Where are you from, Christos?
Greece,
What part?
Thessaloniki,
Wonderful. What year are you?
freshman,
Freshman. Gonna study?
CIS.
CIS. Love it. Great.
So my question is, to what degree do these steps for these tactics for entrepreneurship apply when you want to bring like a product to an existing product to another market?
Yeah.
Like in my case, from like Greece, for example, to the US.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
market in general.
Yeah, sure. So if we've got an existing product in one market, we want to bring it to a new market. I would say these tactics apply so directly. Like there's no real dramatic change in how I would leverage them. And the reason why is because if you go to a new market, you've got a whole new customer segment. That customer segment is going to think differently. They are going to want different things for different reasons. They're going to be willing to buy them in different ways. And so getting a really solid understanding of the differences between the customers in one market and the customers in another is extremely important. Your goals, you still need to set those goals. You still need to do the market testing to understand the new market's consumers. And then ultimately the product development, you're going to follow similar steps. There's going to be some things about the product that won't apply directly. What kind of product are you thinking about?
Shoe cleaners.
What is it?
Shoe cleaners.
Shoe cleaners. I don't know enough about shoe cleaners to be able to comment on the differences you need in a new market, but a lot of that product might look different. And so I'd encourage you to think about what that looks like based on what you hear from end users, from customers in the US market, if that's where you're looking to bring it. It all starts with primary market research, going and getting to know our customers as well as we know some of our best friends. If you know what your end users want and how they think as well as you know how some of your best friends think, your ability to make a decision on what that product should look like, how best to serve them, is going to allow you to move much quicker. Because otherwise, it's speculation. It's too much hypothesis. You need to be able to leverage concrete data from real people that you're talking to, not some big survey, to make those decisions about what the product looks like. So same process, applied sometimes a little bit differently, just based on what you already have knowledge in.
Okay, thank you.
Christos, great question.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Name,
Brandon,
Brandon. Cool. Where are you from?
Fitchburg, Mass.
Cool. And what year?
Freshman.
Freshman. Nice.
What are the first steps you think you should take when wanting to start your own business?
Yeah. Well, we say that there's a couple starting points if you want to go build your own company, right? And it's not necessarily technology. You're going to need that, but my go-to was always, let me go build the thing, right? The starting points that I would point you towards are, you need an idea. Does the idea matter? No. Idea doesn't matter. Idea is going to change 10 times over. You need an idea just as a starting point, but what you really need is a really strong team. Brandon, you probably got some skill sets yourself, right? You might be really good at, I'm going to make this up, just go with me. You might be really good at marketing. You might need somebody who's really good at product development. You might need somebody who's really good at finance. You've got to build a team of complementary skill sets of people who are all super bought in to that long-term vision of where you want to go. And so that's what I would encourage you to think about. What's your team? Who's going after this thing with you? That's the most important part of any new entrepreneurial venture. That's got to be your starting point. And then from there are documented steps you can take. Cool. Yeah. Lauren. What's the biggest challenge developing an idea into a business? I kind of want to, what did you say your name was again? Lauren? Lauren. I'd refer you to my answer to Brandon's question. Why? Because I think the biggest challenge in turning an idea into a business, the number one challenge that I work with entrepreneurs on is around the people. It's about the team, right? Taking that idea and turning it into a business, the people are going to be the biggest challenge you have. How much can we get done? How do we be efficient? How do we make sure we're all going in the same direction and that we're aligned? That's something that we think is easy, but then when we get into it, it's actually much harder. Is efficiently using those resources we have, like the people. And that's been my experience too, Lauren. It's like, team's hard. You gotta figure that out. You gotta figure out, how do we work so well together? How do we have that energy amplification we were talking about? All these sorts of things that help you take that idea and turn it into a business. And the other thing I'd add kind of on that, coming back to your question too, Brandon, is a lot of people fall in love with the idea. Say, oh my gosh, this is the idea. This is what we have to go and build and bring to the world. If that's not what the world wants, people have a really hard time kind of like breaking up with it, if that makes sense. How do we, if the world tells us there's data that says people don't want this thing, how do we make sure that we don't just go wind up building it anyway? And so those are a couple of the things that I would say people run into when they're trying to take that idea and turn it into a full-blown business. Yeah. What was your name?
Stella.
Stella.
I'm a freshman and I'm majoring in marketing.
Cool.
And you mentioned before that entrepreneurs experience a lot of great highs and then great lows. So I was wondering, how do you stay motivated through those lows?
Yeah, that's a great question. How do you stay motivated? Well, when you have those ridiculously high highs and the ridiculously low lows, the highs like, oh my gosh, we just closed a round of funding, or oh my gosh, we just signed this huge contract with a big brand name company, right? And the lows of, oh my gosh, we just had to fire somebody, or we had a term sheet for a new round of funding that would support the company for the next 18 months, and the investor pulled it out from under us, right? How do we deal with those? The only possible way to do that is when you're working on something that you care so deeply about. When your personal mission aligns with the mission of this company that you're trying to build, it's got to be something that you care, like, I'll tell you, like, I care so deeply about helping entrepreneurs, right? When things are going great or things aren't going so great, it's like that remains true. I still care about that, and that's what gets you through the highest highs and the lowest lows. And so that's something, it's like I encourage everybody to go figure out what's something that you can invest our limited time on this big rock we call planet Earth in. How do we make sure that's something that we care so deeply about? And yeah, that's it. This is the raison d'etre, our reason for existence. For a company and for us as individuals, they have to match up. And if you're working on something you really care about, you'll get through those days when not everything's going to plan, which is most every day. That's the reality of it anyway. Did I already come? I already came to you, Christos. So we're going to go to somebody in the back. Yeah.
My name is Tanzaki. I'm a freshman.
Nice.
My major is management with concentration in entrepreneurship.
Cool.
And being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of risk taking involved.
Yeah.
I wanted to
Yeah, there is risk involved, but I would say that it's calculated risk. So like when I think about entrepreneurship, I take an engineering mindset to entrepreneurship. It's, we're not just going to go do something. We're going to kind of like, as a starting point, analyze what are our best paths forward. What are the ways in which we can decrease risk? If we are going to make a decision, what are the alternatives to that decision? Why is this the best choice to make our next step to chart that path forward? When we looked at the example from Orbit of the different market segments, and we're looking at primary care physicians, hospitals, specialty clinics, how do we decide which one to start with? We can't go solve the world's problems. We've got to start with one well-defined market segment. How do we make sure that's the market segment that gives us the best odds of success compared to another market segment? We've got to analyze all the data that we can access to make that decision. So the thing I would say is like making informed decisions and reducing risk wherever possible, taking those calculated risks that drive the business forward without creating, this sense of we don't know what we're doing or why we're doing it. Calculated risk, calculated risk. We have time for one more? Yeah? We already came to you. Let's go to the very back. Yeah?
My name is Natalia, and I was wondering what's the most common mistake that people might make when they're starting up or
Yeah.
the biggest mistake?
You said your name was Natalia? Yeah, cool. This is a good question. What's the most common mistake people make? There's a lot of mistakes that can be made, that are made. The most common mistake that I would say is not following that order of operations. Saying, look, we're going to go build this product, and then finding out later that we've wasted a lot of time and a lot of money building something that people don't want. We can't go at this thing forever. We've got to go and we've got to talk to real people, validate that real people have a problem or a pain point. If we don't do that, I think we're in to build something that nobody cares about, nobody wants. And the only way that a business continues is if we have people who pay for the value that we create. Entrepreneurship is about creating value for people through products, innovations, things like that, and capturing value, making money from people when they pay us. And the reason that we need both of those, creating value and capturing value, is to make sure that the business has the resources it needs to continue operating in the long term. So not starting with what people really need and the top priorities of our potential customers.